Hello and welcome back to Art Masters with me, Mrs. Portilla. Today we are going to be doing work just like Paul Cézanne. He had a very interesting way of seeing things in nature as basic shapes. Just like this still life of fruit, a still life is non-living objects. He simplified the shapes, but they're still geometric shapes. Or like in a landscape that's realistic, you'll see that instead of making things perfectly shaped, a mountain might just be a simple triangle. And so today we are going to be making a still life just like Cézanne, and we're going to be emphasizing color and shape over realism. And we're going to be using tissue paper today to make our still life of a fruit bowl. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start our still life by Cézanne, we're going to start with our tissue paper and some scissors. So today we're going to be doing a fruit bowl still life. A still life is just a picture of items that are non-living, like fruit. And you would typically paint them from life. So Cézanne would have a nice little setup of fruit, and then he would sit and paint them. Today, instead of paint, we're going to be using tissue paper. So to get some of our shapes, we're going to use our scissors and tissue paper. So let's just watch first. I'm going to show you two ways to do our circles. So watch me fold my tissue paper like this. Oop, very nice. So if I want a big circle or a big shape, I might just leave my paper like this, and then I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut on the folded end. So before you cut, you're going to tap and say, yep, this is the folded end, okay? And then you're going to cut a half circle. Ooh, there's my nice big circle. Let me show you how to do a smaller circle. This one we would fold in half just like we did. But then I'm going to fold in half again. So I would take this end and bring it all the way and pinch. So again, if I cut on this side, it's not going to work. So before we cut, we tap, tap, tap on the folded side. So I know I'm cutting correctly. And then I'm going to cut a half circle. This time it's going to be smaller. And now I get two circles. So if you feel really uncomfortable with that, although I think everyone should be able to do this, I do have some templates for you. A template is just a shape like this that you can put on to your paper. And then if you want, you can hold it down with a pencil and trace it. And maybe I'll even do a couple small ones. And then you would just cut out the shape that way. That way it might take a little bit longer, but if you feel more comfortable doing that, you may do that. Otherwise, you will fold your paper, tap the folded end, and cut the half circles. So everyone go ahead and take your red tissue paper, and you're gonna cut either a big circle, or you'll fold it a couple of times and get the smaller circles, or you may use a template. We're just doing one sheet. Great job. So you guys probably notice if you think about fruits like oranges and apples, they're mostly round. So we're going to do another round shape, and we're not doing anything yet with these round shapes. We're just leaving them, and let's not get rid of our scraps because maybe we'll use those. So now I'm either going to take, you guys can choose, maybe you want your orange or maybe your green. So we're going to do the same thing. You may use the templates to draw some circles, or we're just going to fold. So watch me again. I'm going to fold in half. And I don't want to cut on this side. That's right. I want to do the folded side. So I'm going to tap on the folded side. Tap, tap. Good. Now this one, maybe I don't want it to be as big. Maybe I want a couple different sizes. So I might do a small circle. And then I'm still on the folded side. And then a bigger circle. Are all fruits perfect looking shapes? No, they're not. They're all a little lumpy or oval. So ooh, it's kind of a squishy oval. And this one. So let's go ahead and cut one more shape. Maybe you're going to use the green or the orange. And you may use your template if you prefer having perfect circles, or you're gonna fold it. You could fold it 1 time in half or 2 times in half, but you're always cutting on the folded edge. Okay, so I want to do a banana. Bananas are usually yellow when they're ripe. So for the banana, watch how I fold this paper. I'm gonna take the point to the point, and then I'm gonna turn my square into a triangle, okay? So how did I do that again? I did point to point, and then that made it a triangle. So to do my banana, bananas are curved. So I'm going to start at the edge, folded edge, and I'm just gonna cut off the pointy end, or I'm gonna make another big half circle, whichever way makes sense to you. But instead of unfolding it, because that would be a strange shape, I'm going to cut another little happy face shape on the folded, tap, tap, tap. When I say happy face, it's really just another half circle. I'm just gonna cut my edges off. Cut, cut. So that kind of gives me 2 bananas. Or maybe you think that looks like a honeydew melon slice. So this is where you get to decide what your fruit looks like. So if you would like to cut a banana, you may do so just by folding point to point, and then you cut your half circle, and then I cut a half circle again. So if you want to make your own kind of organic shape for fruit, you may do that with scissors, but go ahead and either make a banana or your own shape of fruit. Okay, so now we're gonna do a bowl or a vase to have our fruit in. So I'm gonna use my blue one, and we're gonna watch first. I'm going to make a vase. So this one I'm gonna tap where my folded side is, but for this one I'm actually gonna cut off the other side. So that's a little bit confusing, so you wanna think before you do this one. So I'm gonna tap my folded side and I'm gonna hold it, and then I'm gonna kind of just cut a round shape, cut off that corner. See you later, corner, okay? And then I'm just gonna kind of come back in, cut diagonal to there. So vases are all different shapes, so yours could look different, but essentially I'm just cut it off. I cut off the corner, went in and came out. And then when I open that, I have a nice big vase that I could put my items in. Another option would be a bowl. I'm gonna fold the points, kind of like we did our banana. And then I'm gonna cut on the folded edge, tap, tap. And it's very similar to our banana. I'm just gonna cut a little bit from the corner. So I'm still pinching my shape tight because I think I cut off the edges. So I went from the corner, kind of curved into the corner. And then mine actually came apart, which is fine. If yours didn't, you'll just kind of cut those little edges off to open them up. And then I'm going to pick one, and then all I'm gonna do is cut off this point to make it look more like a bowl. So let's everyone either cut out a vase by folding your shape and cutting on the outside edge, so this time you'll pinch the folded edge, or a bowl. And the bowl we did by doing a diagonal fold, and then I just cut it around just like the banana. Okay, so everyone should have some fruits and a vase or a bowl. And if you have some extra tissue paper, just leave that because we might need to add little extras. So now everyone's going to get their white piece of paper, and we're gonna turn it horizontal. So this would be vertical, this is horizontal. So we're gonna do a horizontal layout, and we're gonna arrange our items. We're just gonna group them in a way that we think looks good. So for example, when this person put the fruit down here, it almost seems like it's sitting on a tabletop. And then it looks like they balanced their arrangement by adding the little cherries here and also having some here. So even though it's kind of abstract, we always want to think about balance, okay? So we're going to take the next few minutes and we're not going to glue or stick our fruit on. This is all arranging. So I have 2 bowls, but to me that doesn't look very good having 2 bowls. So I'm going to edit. I don't have to use all my pieces. I highly suggest not using all your pieces. So I'm gonna have my bowl there, maybe. I'm just gonna arrange. Now, let's see, I have 2 bananas. Ooh, what if I overlap, putting one on top of the other? Ooh, so make sure you practice overlapping some shapes and see how that looks. Now, these are big shapes. If you decide, I really want some tiny shapes. Oh, I have some scrap paper. I'm gonna fold it and I'm gonna cut on the folded edge, kind of a tiny like cherry shape. So this is a good time to find if you have any scrap paper, maybe you just need a little shape. Let me show you one other thing I could do. All right, so I have a nice round shape, but I want this to look a little bit more like an apple. So especially for you second graders, if you want to make your fruit look a little bit more interesting, you could use your scissors and you can make it look a little bit more like an apple. So you can edit your shapes as you go and overlap. So you're not gluing down. We're just going to arrange our shapes or group them together in a plan. We're going to overlap by putting some in front and some behind, and you'll notice the color change when I put my orange tissue paper over the blue. Okay, so we're always going to be thinking about balance. So let's go ahead and just lay out what we think we want for our design before we glue. Okay, my friend, now I did 2 designs just to show you different layouts, one with a vase and one without the vase. And for some of you second graders, if you would like to add a little bit more detail, like a stem, and you have some green paper left, you can just cut a tip off and have a triangle, which you could use as a very simple leaf or a tip to your banana. You could also cut out like a curved leaf shape where we just connect both edges and then we would just add that as a leaf. And then once we have all of our shapes, we're gonna get ready to glue our shapes down, but we will be using starch today. So we're gonna be using the starch just like paint. So our helpers can go ahead and start passing out our brush and our starch. We only want a very little bit of amount of starch. Okay, so now when we're gonna be gluing or using our starch, we're gonna hold our paintbrush with our pointer finger and our thumb. We're not holding it like a pencil. We're holding it up a little bit higher so we can make kind of brushy strokes. So this is where it's important to think about our overlapping. So I wanna put the shapes that are closest to the paper on first, and then I'll add these other shapes. So this is where when you have a plan, it makes things make sense. But guess what? It's your design. So if you change something, it's totally fine. So let's watch me first. I'm gonna start with my pear and then I'll put this one on. So I'm gonna leave these here. And when we're painting, we wanna do it on our newsprint. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of the starch, dip, and I'm gonna start in the middle and go all the way out and over the edges. So it's okay if your fingers get a little bit messy. We'll wash our hands after. And we're gonna move kind of quickly. Now I'm gonna pull this up because it's already sticking to my paper. And then I'm gonna put it about where I remember I wanted it to be. The cool thing about the tissue paper is if it gets a little folded, it actually looks really cool and dynamic with the texture. Okay, so I'm just gonna push that down with my fingers. If you really don't like using your fingers, you can kind of dab it with your brush. Now I'm gonna go to my next shape. So I'm gonna dip, make sure I go over the edges, grab it with my fingers if I can. I'm gonna overlap my shape. Okay, my shape ripped a little bit, but guess what? I'm just gonna use my brush and dab it. And then it's actually gonna get kind of interesting where you get that cool texture where it folds over each other. So watch me first, and then you guys will start with just a little bit of starch. Okay, so great job. You should be having all of your shapes kind of starched on. You might have noticed I did make a little mistake there, and I'm okay with that. I kind of smushed it, but if it's really bothering you and you have some scrap paper left over, you can go ahead and just starch that scrap paper and just overlap it, just like that. And then that fixes your mistake. For you older kids, my second graders, this is optional. If you want to add kind of a hint of a tabletop, you can add like a little line there. So I can measure there and cut it and just lay it there. And then I would probably come on the other side as well. And then I would just glue it down. And again, this is optional for my second graders. If you want to just give a hint of a tabletop using a tissue paper, you may. If you are happy with yours, then we are going to be finished. If you just need to do a couple little bits of tweaks, maybe your apple needs a stem or your banana needs something or something's not balanced. But for you second graders, if you want to just add a little bit of a line right where it looks like the table should be, I have it just up from the bottom. If not, I think it looks perfectly fine without it. And once you finish your layout and your arrangement, we're going to mount it on our construction paper using a glue stick. And you're going to put your name on the back along with our Cezanne tag. And great job today with your still life arrangements using tissue paper. Great job today with our still lifes by Cezanne. If you have time to evaluate each other's still life work, maybe you guys can point out the different shapes and colors and what they look like to you. Maybe how the arrangement is. Is it balanced and nice? And other things you like about the color and the shape of your still life by Cezanne. So I hope you had a good time today in Art Masters, and we'll see you next time.